All right, good morning. This topic is called Solving Fractional Word Problems Using Linear Equations with Variables on Both Sides. If we break that down, it just means that there's going to be obviously a word problem, and they're going to incorporate some fractions in it. Probably some people get totally terrified with the two of those things together, but hang in there, we'll get through this. Linear equations just means that we're going to have a variable or an x or something with no exponent. There's not going to be an x squared or an x cubed or anything like that. It's just plain x's. Variables on both sides just means that on both sides of the equal sign we're going to end up having variables. So it may sound really long and complicated, but it's just going to be kind of working through the word problems. Alright, so let's start off with a word problem. Alright, let's say that we have a container, and I don't know, we'll say the container is 7/10 full. That's an I. Is 7/10 full. And then we know that we pour out 6 gallons. I don't know if it's water or gasoline or whatever. And now it's half full. And now it's half full. So you can already see those fractions are working their way in. Don't panic. Let's see, we want to know how many gallons does the container hold. How many gallons? I hope that you have your notebook out and you are copying this down. And if you need to hit pause to finish writing it all, definitely do that. But it's important that you put this in your notes. And how about a question mark there? Alright, so we know that a container is 7/10 full. We don't know how many gallons it is. If we did, we would take the 7/10 and multiply it by that number of gallons. And that would be, we would know how full it is, how many gallons it's actually holding at that time. We don't know how full it is. So we're going to say, what we're going to do is we're going to say if it's 7/10 full, it's going to be 7/10 times however much the container can hold. So x equals, how do I want to write it in the space that I have? X equals amount the container can hold. Alright, so for our equation, we have 7/10 times however much, and then what did we do? We poured out, so we took away 6 gallons, so we're going to minus 6, and it's now half full, so that's going to equal half of what the container can hold, so we're going to put 1/2 x. So before we start solving it, if we just look through, what did our title say? Solving fractional word problems. Yep, we had a word problem with fractions. Linear equations. Yep, all of our x's are to the 1 power. Variables on both sides. Yep, bam, done. So let's solve this. The best thing that I like to do when I have a lot of fractions, because honestly I still have a little residual fear from when I was a student and I didn't care for fractions a whole lot, I like to get rid of the fractions. And if you've looked at any of my other videos where we talk about fractional coefficients, I go through this in detail, but I'll just kind of review what we do here. How do we get rid of the numbers in the bottoms of the fractions? Well, what do we have in the bottoms of the fractions? We have a 10 in the first fraction and we have a 2 on the other side of the equal sign. What we need to do is find a number that both these numbers can go into evenly. So I usually start with the larger of the two. We have a 10 and a 2. 10 is bigger. 10 can go into itself, obviously. Can 2 go into 10? Yep, it goes into it nice and evenly. So 10 is going to be our greatest common or lowest common denominator. So what we want to do now is take that magic number 10 and multiply it through every single term in this equation that we've set up. That means we have to multiply this term by 10, this term by 10, don't forget that guy, and this term by 10. So it's going to look a little bit long, and actually I'm going to scroll up first. There we go. Alright, it's going to look a little bit long, but I like having this step nice and long so that I can just slow it right down and make sure that I have good housekeeping on my equations. Alright, so my magic number is 10 over 1 times, now I'm copying the equation from above, 7/10 x, minus, whoops, I don't want my x down there because number 1, it doesn't belong in the denominator. I want it outside here. There we go. Minus, now I'm copying the equation again. I've got to bring my magic number in because remember every term needs to get multiplied. Times 6, and I can change the 6 to 6 over 1. And then on the other side of the equation, I take my magic number again and multiply by what's there. Alright, so again, this might look really, really, really scary, but the reason why we're doing this and making it all written out is so that we can use the properties of multiplying fractions. Usually you multiply fractions, you do top numbers times top numbers and bottom numbers times bottom numbers. However, before you do that, it becomes a lot easier if you can reduce with things. So if we look at our first set of fractions here, we have a 10 in the numerator and a 10 in the denominator. That just means a 10 in the top and a 10 in the bottom. They can cancel each other out. It's basically dividing 10 into both of them, and they become 1 and 1. Now when we multiply our top numbers times our top numbers and our bottom numbers times bottoms, we get 1 times 7x. Well, that's 7x. And on the bottom we have 1 times 1, which is 1. And I'm not even going to write that as a denominator. Moving on to our next set of fractions, tops times tops, bottoms times bottoms. Well, we don't have any bottoms really, so we're just going to multiply the tops together. 10 times 6 is 60. We can't reduce those two numbers because they're both in the top. You can only reduce a top with a bottom. Now we have our equal sign, and now on our last set of fractions, again we have a 2 in the bottom of a fraction and a 10 in the top. Well, 2 can reduce with a 10. 2 goes into itself once, 2 goes into 10 5. So now we multiply the tops. 5 times 1x is 5x, and on the bottom we have 1 times 1, which I'm not going to write. So look at that. We've gotten rid of all the fractions. It's going to be a lot easier to wrap our brains around knowing that there's no fractions there. At least that's how I like to look at it. So now we're basically down to just working through a normal algebraic equation with just the normal steps that we take. We still have x's on both sides of the equation. And then since the 5x is all by itself, I'm going to bring the 7x over there. How do I bring it over? I subtract 7x, because 7x minus 7x goes to 0. What I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other. Now I rewrite. Remember that negative sign is married to that 60, so you have to bring it down with it. 5x take away 7x is going to give me negative 2x. Now to solve for x, all I have left to do is get rid of that negative 2. The negative 2 is multiplying, so I'm going to undo that by dividing. And my negative 2's cancel out. I have x on this side. What is a negative 60 divided by a negative 2? It's going to be a positive 30. So what did we just learn? We learned that the container could hold 30 gallons. And then you could actually plug it back up into the original equation to make sure that your answer is correct. Alright, let's try another one. Let me scroll this up. Find another spot in your notebook where we can write out a word problem. Let's say that this time we say that a gas tank is 1/3 full. A gas tank is 1/3 full. You realize you're a little bit low on gas. You don't have a lot of money in your pocket. So you buy 3 gallons. Still going to be over $10 for 3 gallons, right? You buy 3 gallons of gas, and the tank is now half full. Doesn't sound like it's a very big tank. How many gallons is the tank hold total? How many gallons does the tank hold? Again, I want you make sure that you write this down in your notebooks. And how many gallons does the... Again, if you need to hit pause while you finish copying it, that's fine. Alright, so that's our word problem. Again, we're just going to work through it. We know that there's some number of total gallons, so we'll just call that x equals number of gallons that the tank holds. Total, you know what I mean? Tank holds. So now that we have a variable established, or a letter that represents something we don't know, let's go back through the first sentence. A gas tank is 1/3 full. So 1/3 times the total number would be the number of gallons. We buy 3 gallons, so do we add it or do we subtract it? Well, if we're adding in gallons, we're adding in gallons, so we have to do plus 3 gallons equals, once we've added in the 3 gallons, this word is kind of a key word, and that's where you want to put your equal sign. It's now half full. How many gallons is that? Well, that's 1/2 times the total number of gallons that the tank holds. Again, just like the last problem that we just did, Very similar, we have x's on both sides, we have some fractions, and we're going to find our magic number that we want to multiply through by. So we look at the bottoms of the fraction. The first fraction has a 3, the second fraction has a 2, and to find a number that they both go into evenly, I think it's easy to see that 3 times 2 is 6. Both of them will go into 6 evenly with no remainder, so 6 is going to be our magic number. Again, this is the line where I write out my next step really kind of long. I'm going to multiply everything by 6, or 6 over 1. But as even though it takes me like 5 whole seconds to do this, I am going to do it because it helps me keep track of what I'm multiplying. And again, as you do get a little more experienced in this, you might be able to do a little bit more of it in your head. You might be able to maybe just write the 6 above all of these. Like maybe I'll do it on the next example what I mean. But again, as you're starting out, I really want you to take your time. Alright, now let's go to the multiplying of the fractions. First set of fractions, the 3 is in the bottom, it goes into itself once. The 3 goes into the 6 twice. Multiplying tops times tops, we get 2x. Plus, there's no reducing to do on our second set of fractions. 6 times 3 is simply 18. Bring our equal sign down. In our last set of fractions, we're going to reduce the 2 goes into itself once. 2 goes into 6 3 times. Multiplying tops times tops, we get 3x. Again, we have no fractions left. We can breathe a little bit easier. We don't have to worry about like adding or subtracting or multiplying with fractions. We're just done. To solve for x, we need to get our x's on both sides. The 3x is all by itself already, so I'm going to bring the other x term over there. To get rid of it, I have to subtract it. And then when I rewrite, I have 18 equals, 3 take away 2x is 1x. Nice, and we are done. So the tank's bigger than I thought. The tank holds 18 gallons altogether, and that's the answer to that problem. Alright, this last problem, let me scroll up. The last problem that I'm going to do, I might skip that. I might show you another way to do it. I mean, not exactly the same way to do it, but another way to write it as you get a little better. The other thing about this problem is I want you to copy it down. I want you to hit the pause button. Try solving it on your own, and then coming back and hit play and see if we end up with the same thing. Alright, let's go. So a container is 3/10 full. Is 3/10. Hold on, I'm going to erase that because that's just a mess. So 3/10 full. You add 11 gallons. And now the tank is 4/5 full. How much, or how many gallons can the tank hold? Again, we'll let x equal. Alright, again we're going to let x equal the total number of gallons. Oops, get out of there. X equals total number of gallons that the tank can hold. And then again we just work through the sentences. A container is 3/10 full, so that's 3/10 of however total number of gallons. We add in 11 gallons, so we're adding in 11 gallons. And now it's, there's your keyword, it's equal to 4/5 of however many total gallons. What's our numbers on the bottom of the fractions? We have a 10, we have a 5. And the beauty of these two numbers is they both numbers can go into 10, so 10 is our magic number. And so what I'll do here is I'll talk about like when you get better at this, some people might just be able to write like this. This is going to get multiplied by 10, that's going to get multiplied by 10, and that's going to get multiplied by 10. And now you can work through it. 10 reduces with 10, they cancel out, you end up with 3x. 10 times 11, that's just going to be 110. And then the 5 is going to reduce with the 10, turning it into a 2. So you didn't have to write out this really long expression or equation. You can kind of do it like this once you get used to what you're doing. When we multiply tops times tops, 2 times 4x gives us 8x. Now what you can do is get the x's all on one side. So I'm going to bring that 3x over by subtraction. Those are gone. We have 110 equals 8 take away 3 is going to be 5. And now to solve for x, we need to divide both sides by 5. Those cancel out, and now we have x equals, let's see, 22. So this container will hold 22 gallons. Alright, I hope that helped. Good luck, and if you have any questions or something didn't quite make sense, come find me and I'll see if I can help you with it. Thanks.